In the evening, Miranda had a terrible headache and decided to go out for some fresh air. The time was not late, and the courtyard of the apartment building was crowded. The playground was crowded with moms with their offspring of different ages. Miranda shouldn't eat sand. "Drop it," said a young woman of about 2 years old and shook the girl's hand. Seeing this so concerned for her little namesake, Miranda smiled bitterly. She had never had a mom. To be exact, purely physiologically she existed, but the girl had never seen her. Charles' father said that she had died in childbirth, either because of a medical error or the cases were really critical. "Miranda, I always wished Daddy would tell me more about Mommy, but he didn't like to talk about it. He said it was very painful for him, even after many years. He limited himself to the fact that Mom's name was Olga, and she was an orphan. Therefore, Miranda had no grandparents either. Well, at least tell me what she looked like." "She was beautiful." "What kind of hair, eyes, hands?" "Quite a few. Miranda's daughter from an early age. Don't you have anything better to do?" "Yes, I do. Do your homework." My father waved me off. "But Dad, it's so important. You didn't leave a single picture of her." "I can't even imagine her." The girl wouldn't stop. "I burned them because I couldn't look at them. They reminded me too much of your mom and hurt my heart." "If you want to know what she looked like, look in the mirror. You're a copy of her." Miranda locked herself in the bathroom and took a long look at her reflection. Dark skin, huge brown, almost black eyes, Zabelin and eyebrows, curly dark hair. And this despite the fact that her father was a classic Russian Bogotar, ruddy, blue-eyed. What was she, Caucasian? Am I half Georgian or half Armenian? Miranda wondered, examining herself. "Honey, I've told you 100 times. Your mom was an orphan and didn't know the secret of her origins. So please don't torture me with questions like that." "Well, I have to earn a living for you and me," he patiently explained to his daughter. Charles worked as a foreman at a construction site. He earned good money, which was more than enough for him and his daughter. But he had to work hard. The man often disappeared at the construction site until late at night. Miranda got used to it since elementary school and learned not to be afraid of the dark and loneliness. She wasn't afraid of anything at all. In the evenings, while waiting for her father, she was not a romantic princess, but a brave traveler who discovers new strange cities. From an early age, the spirit of adventurism was evident in her. She was a fidgeter who couldn't sit in one place for long. Just like her mother, her father sometimes sighed softly. Hearing this, Miranda immediately jumped up to him and tried once again to attack him with questions. "Really? I mean, Mom was a fidget spinner too." She loved to travel. "What countries did she travel to?" Miranda sternly put her daughter in her place. "Charles, enough? I've already told you that we will not discuss this topic." The girl sighed bitterly, lowered her eyes, and returned to her room. However, even this scanty information from her mother and hints from her father were enough for Miranda to form a full-fledged image of her mother as a brave, sultry woman, merrily wheeling around the world. And this woman came to her in dreams at least once a month. The girl waited for these meetings and even tried to mathematically calculate when exactly her mother would appear to her in her dreams next time. In most dreams, the girl's imaginary mom was silent and smiling. But once she cheerfully whispered to her daughter, "We will definitely meet again, you'll see," and winked Miranda. After that, the girl woke up abruptly. And the next day, Charles brought his girlfriend into the house. Lisa, or just Aunt Lisa. The man was obviously shy. The awkwardness was felt by the guests as well. Miranda gasped. She couldn't even imagine that Daddy could have another woman. Although it would be very logical. He is a young man, a non-drinker, non-smoker, working, earning well. Miranda was already 13 years old and was in a position to appreciate that. It turned out that Lisa Petrovna worked as a dancer at the construction site where her father worked. Their affair had been going on for 6 months, but Charles didn't know how to tell his daughter about it, so he procrastinated for so long. "Now, daughter, we don't want to hide anymore. You're a big girl, you should know better. I love Lisa. We want to get married. She's going to live with us now. How do you feel about it?" the man asked excitedly, and the girl's forehead protruded. "Yes, I'm fine. I see it." Miranda answered unexpectedly calmly. "You're adults free, I hope. Dad didn't take you away from your family, did he?" Aunt Lisa? No, no. Miranda, what are you? The guest started to make excuses. I divorced my husband 3 years ago. I haven't had anyone since. I thought I would have no personal life for the rest of my life. But in the spring I met your father. We got to talking. We liked each other. It was easy. We were both tired of not being in love, you know? Well, the nightstand is a little unnecessary, Charles was embarrassed. But then he continued. I'm glad you're taking this information so well, daughter. Aunt Lisa is a very kind and decent woman, and she cooks very well. At least we can start eating normally together. Yeah, I really like cooking for her. Especially pies with cabbage, potatoes, and meat. Blushing, Lisa began to list. Miranda already liked her, but there were still a few important points to clarify. Pies are great. I love it. But I have a question. Aunt Lisa, do you have kids? Won't I have to share my room with someone else? Miranda asked. No, Miranda, don't even worry about it. I have a son named James. His name. He graduated from high school this year. He turned 18. He went to college to study engineering. He's the first one in our family to get a higher education. He and I have an apartment, a 1-bedroom in the suburbs, but it's our own. James is already an adult, so we decided that he is able to live alone. I'm leaving the apartment to him and moving in with you. Thankfully, you have a 3-room apartment, so there's plenty of room for everyone, Lisa explained in detail. Thank you for that, Miranda smiled. Then what's the point of wasting time? Let's go and have tea. We don't have any cakes, but we have waffles. You haven't finished them yet, have you, Dad? No, daughter. The kettle is fully on, smiled the man. The father was not deceived. Lisa indeed turned out to be very kind and economic. With her arrival in their house, finally became really cozy. Father's new wife was modest and treated Miranda very well, tried not to meddle with her soul. But if necessary, she was always happy to help with advice or business. She was in her teens. The girl had many questions for this life. The girl fell in love with her stepmother. Conflicts between them did not arise. Only minor quarrels, without which no interaction can do without. And yet sometimes, lying on her bed, looking out the window, Miranda sadly thought how great it would be if her real moms lived with her dad in the same friendly and happy way. Maybe even happier. The girl became friends with her Aunt Lisa, James' son. He, too, turned out to be a good-natured, friendly guy who often dropped by to visit them. James, would you like your mom to stay with your dad so you could be a family? Miranda sometimes asked her new friend. Of course I would, the boy answered her, but that would only be possible if they were both happy in this union. And I've seen my mom suffer. I love my father, but I realize that he is a tough and authoritarian man. It's never easy with people like that, especially people who are soft and can't say no. How's your mom? Miranda asked. Exactly. James confirmed. He suppressed her in many ways, and she literally melted away, crumbled as a person. It went on for years. Even to me, a child, it was obvious. So I'm glad my mom found the strength to file for divorce. But now I'm glad to see her with your father. I mean, they're glowing around each other. I see. I just sometimes think how nice it would be if Dad was with Mom, Miranda explained. I know what you mean. But I'm sure you've heard the phrase that history has no subjunctive mood. Well, you'll never know what your mom and dad would have been like if she had lived. Maybe they would have been the world's unhappiest couple, and it would have hurt you to look at them. I'm sorry your mom died so young. But I'm sorry, it's stupid to keep running images in your head of her being alive and around your dad. You're only hurting yourself by realizing you can't change the past. Let's just be happy for our parents and for the fact that after all the troubles fate brought them together, suggested James. Sounds like a toast, Miranda joked. I thought I'd take it easy. You're not 18 yet, so don't even talk about that, the guy joked. Meanwhile, as time went on, Miranda wasted no time. Lisa became a full-fledged member of the family. Very important and necessary, Miranda did not call her mom Aunt Lisa. She had one mom, even if the girl didn't know her. The stepmother understood this and did not insist otherwise. Year after year, and Miranda approached adulthood. At the same time, the girl had not decided what her daughter wanted to become. But you can't do that, her father urged her. And what kind of exams will you take? I understand that in the 10th grade you still have to think, but in the 11th grade it's time to make up your mind. Miranda, why don't you follow in my footsteps and become a dancer? You're a brave girl. You're not afraid of heights? It's the right profession for you. It pays well. You will always have money. Lisa joined the conversation. Oh no, working class. With all due respect, it doesn't appeal to me, replied Miranda. What, scared of labor? Dad asked. No, I'm not afraid, but I want it to be a pleasure, answered Miranda. And at your construction site, it's the same monotonous, boring work every day. Brick to brick. I cannot withstand so long, running father withstood meaningfully. But the girl knew what phrase is spinning in his head at this moment, all in the mother. In general, to be honest, I would like to work in tourism, organize tours and stuff like that. In general, not to sit in one place, answered Miranda. What kind of profession is that, daughter? And you will be traveling like this until you are old and have enough strength, objected her father. And it is dangerous, as Miranda, we live in such a difficult time. What if something happens to you or to the tourists? What to do? I agree with my father that we should choose something else, Lisa added. Miranda didn't answer anything, but sighed and went to her room. For advice, she decided to turn to the wise James. She told him dreams and plans. The guy listened attentively to the girl, was silent for a while, thinking about the answer, and then gave a detailed speech. Listen, what if we go the other way around? You want to travel all the time, but your parents and circumstances are against it. Then pick something drastically opposite, something that has to do with grounding and home. It's like actors have resistance roles where they have to play characters that are nothing like them at all. But as a rule, in such cases the real masterpieces turn out. Maybe you should choose a resistance profession too. Plus you like challenges and you know how to cope with difficulties? That sounds quite interesting, Miranda replied. Except what profession are you talking about? What do you mean? But let's say interior designer is a down-to-earth profession on the one hand, but on the other hand creative, which is also important to you and in demand these days. Your room has always been so creative. I mean, you obviously have a knack for this craft, but it's a choice that will make your parents happy. I mean, it's close to their field. So you think about it, James summarized. Miranda realized that her wise friend was right once again. She heeded his advice and the next day announced to her father and stepmother that she wanted to become an interior designer. But that's already better, replied the father. I already understand that. I've built a lot of houses in my life. I know that people now really use the services of designers. We used to do it ourselves as much as we could. And now everyone wants to be beautiful technologically. So good for you, daughter. You made the right choice. What's up, mommy? I think we could make a cabbage pie for such an occasion. What do you say? All right, Charles, I'll make it quick. The woman answered cheerfully and went into the kitchen. The father kissed his daughter on the cheek and told her not to worry about the money for school. He would pay for everything. In the end, James, as always, turned out to be right. In this case, everyone was satisfied. So Miranda became a student of residential and commercial interior design at a construction university. Her studies were easy, and she was really interested in the subject. Plus, James guessed that she had an aptitude for it. Therefore, already in the first year, Miranda was considered one of the most prominent and promising students of the faculty. At the same time, about personal life, the girl did not forget she was active, coquettish, and beautiful. Black eyes that broke more than one man's heart. But we have the real Carmen, one of the professors joked. Miranda only smiled embarrassedly and lowered her eyes, which made a couple of fellow students fall in love with her. However, Miranda never got into a serious relationship. She went out with some guy for a month or two. Then she got bored with him, and the girl left him without feeling any remorse. Don't you feel sorry for these guys? Interested in personal meetings, James, who by that time was already married to a girl with whom he met since the first year. Why should I feel sorry for them? I didn't make any promises to them. Nothing was going to stick. My conscience is clear. I'm still so young. I have so much I want to try and learn. I'm not you from youth to hang a mare on my neck. My time will come. I'll have time to be a boring housewife. Miranda waved me off. But watch out. You can get too much, James said. And he was right. A couple of years later, Miranda came to visit the guy and his wife, Kelly. The young people got along well with each other and often got together. This time, the reason for the meeting was Kelly's birthday. The apartment of the young couple was not crowded. The owners of the house did not like noisy companies. In addition to Miranda came two friends of the birthday girl and her colleague. Meet Mark. We've been working on a project for a year now. A lot of things have happened to him. It's not easy for us. In that time, we've practically bonded with Mark, became like brother and sister, introduced the guest Kelly. In response to her words, Mark smiled silently. And at that moment, Miranda was simply stunned. Until then, she had read about love at first sight only in books and did not believe in it. But now she was convinced that it wasn't a fairy tale. Mark was a tall, trim blonde, but not a jock. Miranda couldn't stand such people with crystal blonde eyes. He had a serious expression on his face. He was dressed in a dumb black turtleneck, on his legs classic black jeans. This restraint, layering, style, masculinity conquered the girl. She immediately realized that this was the hero of her novel. But Mark's bitter smile in response to Kelly's words that they are with him as brother and sister led her to suspect that only the birthday girl herself thinks so. Mark, on the other hand, wouldn't mind something more. During a smoke break, when Miranda was alone with James in the kitchen, she asked her friend if he was jealous of his wife. "You're not?" "They're just co-workers. Kelly invited him with my consent, knowing that there would be no other men at the party. And in the company of women I can get bored," the man replied. "And you're not at all worried that he might steal your wife?" Miranda asked. "Not a bit," James said without a shadow of a doubt. "I have absolute confidence in my wife. She's never given me any reason to be jealous. Besides, even assuming for a moment that you might be right, that would be silly," agreed. A wife calls a potential lover to a party where her husband is present, introduces them, and insists in every way possible that they become friends. It's a load of crap. And Kelly is a very smart woman. "Okay," chuckles, "I hope she is." "I was just imagining things," Miranda replied. "Of course you were." James closed the subject. However, what the girl had not imagined was that she had fallen head over heels in love. The feeling was new and therefore a little scary. The guys Miranda had gone out with before she liked, but she didn't feel love for them. But this one was over her head, so she couldn't sleep for a long time at night. Her heart was racing. Her thoughts were confused. In the morning, the girl fell asleep and saw the image of her mother in her dream, though she had not dreamt about her for a long time. Miranda woke up in a cold sweat. So pull yourself together, to cheer herself up. It's just an ordinary man. Yeah, handsome, smart. But there's plenty of those out there. That's no reason to panic. I'll get his number and I'll be over in a heartbeat. What's it worth to me? Miranda did act decisively. That same day, she called Kelly and asked for Mark's number, asking if he was married. "No, he's not married to anyone," the wife of James replied. "But Miranda, I want to warn you right away. Mark is very dear. He's my real friend. You're a great girl, and I love you a lot too, but I know how you feel about guys. You play around and then you dump him. I'm not going to let you do that to Mark. He's a serious guy, and I don't think that's the right kind of relationship for him. Kelly, you don't have to worry." "I think I'm really in love," Miranda's friend reassured her. "Then write down the number and go for it." "I'll be glad if everything works out," Kelly replied, having received the coveted combination of numbers. Miranda spent a couple more days thinking about what to do with her, where to start communicating with her. She realized that Kelly was right. Mark was definitely not an easy man to fool. In the end, she decided to ask him for help installing new software on her computer. After all, it was his specialty. "Yes, of course I can help. But why didn't you ask James? You're related to him, aren't you?" Mark wondered. "Oh, after Kelly's birthday, they decided to go to the campgrounds for a vacation." "I don't want to disturb them," Miranda said. "I hear you. All right, I'll help. I'll see you at some coffee shop," Mark suggested. "Let's do it," Miranda replied cheerfully. The meeting took place the next day. Miranda put on her best dress super short, allowing to appreciate the length of endless legs on curls, did a beautiful makeup. Mark was in his style elegant restraint, high showing. "Here we go. Now we'll figure it out," discreetly greeted the engineer to the girl, not appreciating her parade appearance. "Hi." Miranda said cheerfully. She twirls a curl on her finger. Here's the laptop. Why don't we grab a coffee or something? Sorry, I'm in a hurry. I'm taking my computer with me. When everything is ready, I'll call you. Mark summarized the situation succinctly and left, leaving the girl alone with her outfit and styling. She didn't expect such a turn and decided to have a latte. After Mark left, she was instantly approached by several guys who wanted to meet her. But Miranda was sad and adamant. She wasn't interested in anyone but Mark, and Mark seemed to be indifferent to her. A couple days later, Mark dialed Miranda and told her that the computer was ready. So I'll see you at the coffee shop. Miranda asked with hope in her voice. She had worked on her mistakes, and this time she decided to choose a more restrained, but no less impressive outfit. No need. I'll walk over to your university on my way home from work and hand over the laptop, Mark replied. Good. Yeah. Without hiding her disappointment, Miranda stated. That same evening, as promised, Mark parked the car near the academic building where the girl was studying. After leaving the building and noticing the object of her adoration, Miranda ran to meet him. Mark, hi. How nice to see you, smiled the girl. Yes, hello. In his trademark understated style, the man replied. Let's sit down in the car for a couple of minutes. I will explain to you how your computer will work now and where to click in case of problems. The man and the girl got into the car. Mark opened the laptop and with a serious look started talking about the software. Miranda listened to him but did not understand anything. Her heart was pounding frantically if in such proximity to her beloved. In the end, the girl did not hold back and kissed Mark herself. He did not push Miranda away, but also did not reciprocate her without locking lips. Realizing that the man was adamant, Miranda pulled away from him and cried bitterly. Miranda, I am sorry if I have offended you. I'm not a fool and I realize that you like me, but unfortunately I can't reciprocate. You are very beautiful and one would have to be blind not to notice that. I am sure that you still have everything ahead of you and you will meet a man who will appreciate you and make you happy. But I'm a one-woman man and my heart has already been stolen by another woman, Mark explained measuredly. And the other woman is Kelly. Did I get that right? Through tears, Miranda asked. Yes, Mark admitted. Is it really so obvious? I have an eye for a meter in these matters. I can see men in love from a mile away. Miranda grinned bitterly. The only strange thing is that Kelly doesn't realize it and sincerely considers you almost a brother. It's just that she and James have a true love that's been tested over the years. They've been through a lot together, she told me herself, and all her words about her husband are always filled with affection and tenderness. Kelly is simply also a one-woman man and does not see other men as men. For her, there is only one single James, Mark explained. Lucky guy, Miranda remarked. Tell me about it, agreed Mark. They're both lucky, because James feels the same way about Kelly. You're related to him. You haven't talked to him about me? He's not jealous, have you? Miranda was honest. He's not the least bit jealous. He believes in Kelly, and he doesn't even think she'd cheat on him. Which makes me glad there are other couples like that out there. And sad that I'm not the one she chose, Mark said. I understand you perfectly, Miranda said, brushing away a tear. No offense, right? Changing his tone to a more benevolent one, Mark tried to cheer up the student. But I can't help it. I don't want to torture you or myself. I understand. Thank you for your honesty. Well, good luck, Miranda said, and jumped out of the car. That night she refused to have dinner with her father and stepmother, even though it was a tradition in their family. She locked herself in her room and cried quietly. Neither Charles nor Lisa were able to extract from Miranda the true cause of her sadness, realizing only that it was a matter of unhappy love. It was decided to call in James Kelly. Those promptly arrived at the apartment. I think I have an idea what happened, Kelly said. I need to talk to Miranda. She knocked on the room of the crying student and asked for permission to enter. The woman let the guest in. Miranda. Is this about Mark? Yes? Miranda nodded silently. I thought so. It didn't work out? Kelly asked cautiously. Miranda answered again with a silent nod. Not sadness after all, my good friend. I told you Mark was a one-woman man. He told me himself that he loves a certain woman and doesn't consider others. But she can't be with him. I don't know why he doesn't like to go into details, but I must say he's honest and honorable. He could have taken advantage of your youth and beauty and left you, and you'd be left with a broken heart. You'd get a couple days and move on. Miranda Kelly, a student, tried to console her. No response from a buddy. Mentally marveling at Kelly's blind ignorance. Did she really not realize that Mark was in love with her? That was the question running through Miranda's mind out of resentment. She even wanted to announce it to Kelly, so loudly that she could hear James standing outside the door. But she stopped herself in time, realizing that she had no right to hurt the people close to her, who wished her only good. Thanks for your support, Kelly. It's okay, right? You're absolutely right. I just need a couple days to get over it, and I'll start moving on, Miranda replied with her trademark smile, wiping away her tears. Well, that's good, said the guest, sweetly to the student. Now let's go have dinner with everyone. They're already waiting for us. Lisa baked a fish pie. Your favorite is well wiped off your face by the makeup, replied Miranda. During dinner, everyone tried so hard to comfort. Holding the girl, were so caring and friendly with her that Miranda's heart rejoiced. It was then that the girl first thought about reconsidering her views on relationships. Maybe people like James, Kelly, and Mark are right, and it is worth it not to splurge on countless partners, but to find one truly yours and find in him support and become a shoulder for him. Not to let him fall in a difficult moment. Since then, Miranda has become more selective in her relationships. She began to actively refuse guys in dating, deciding to go only with those who are really interesting to her. And such, despite the general excitement around her person, there were not so many. By the time she graduated from university, Miranda did not have a boyfriend. It is even surprising that our femme fatale Carmen, who knocked down so many hearts, receives a diploma in proud solitude, a professor whispered to her at graduation. It happens. The girl shrugged, and Carmen is reevaluating her outlook on life too. Well, while one area of life was calm and quiet, the other was boiling over. The fact that Miranda was loading up her personal life allowed her to focus on her studies in conjunction with her abilities. This led to her being hired by the city's largest interior design agency right after university. All her classmates dreamed of getting there, but only Miranda and one other guy were hired. Lucky you, Tisha, you will work with such pros, said her classmates Christina. But you have a wedding in 2 weeks, the girl said with a smile. You're right, that's great too, Christina replied. Miranda herself, though convinced after the story with Mark that family is the most important thing, decided not to cling to this moment and let everything go on its way. If she had a good job, it meant that she had to actively develop this sphere. Miranda was attentive, an executive trainee, so she was quickly transferred to the staff and began to be involved in the most complex projects. The girl went into work with her head. Once upon a time, James turned out to be completely right. Her role on the Resistance shot out and fully justified itself. Interior design became her life's work. Miranda quickly moved up the career ladder, got promotion after promotion, and soon was able to buy an apartment and move out of her father and stepmother's house. They were proud of Miranda, but very worried about her lack of a fiancé. It happens. I used to worry that you'd foolishly marry some fool who'd ruin your life when you were 18, or bring it to you in a hem. And now, worrying that you'll stay in the girls and not marry. The age is already pressing. Daughter, when will you have grandchildren? Charles was interested. What age, Daddy? The girl was surprised. I'm only 25. In Europe, young people of such age still go out and have fun, or build a career, and marriages begin to think only after 30. So everything is still ahead of us. Take your time. My father obediently obeyed me and stopped talking. Besides, Lisa whispered to him that Miranda was right, and there was no need to nod and make her nervous. In the evenings, however, sitting in their hard-earned apartment, furnished in the latest fashions, Miranda felt a wistfulness at times, unpleasantly clutching at her heart's contentment. There came a point when loneliness began to weigh on her. She finally switched from her career to her personal life and started dating again. Favor from suitors, as in her youth, there was no lack of suitors, but none of them could conquer Miranda. My darling, maybe you're too hard on yourself. Kelly, who was raising a 3-year-old son with James, asked her. And the couple was expecting their second. No, Kelly, we're not. I'm just being honest with myself. Remember when your friend Mark fell in love with one, and he couldn't help himself? I wish I could do the same. By the way, how is he doing? Miranda asked Mark. I don't know, good, I guess. About 3 years ago, he abruptly took off and moved to the US. I never understood the reason. He'd had noticeably less contact with me, and I hadn't imposed. I don't have time for it now, to be honest, because of the kids. It's weird, but it happens. Kelly wondered. Yes, Miranda sighed, actually understanding. The behavior of a man. Speaking of the brand, before he left, he sold his apartment to a partner in our firm, and he wants to renovate it. The colleagues have passed it on. Maybe we'll do it. He's a prominent businessman. We want to find an approach to him so as to favor our company in the future. Pay him generously. I'm sure, Kelly said. Why not? Give me the contacts, said Miranda, mentally calculating how much she had left to save for a car. Fat orders were coming in handy right now. The businessman's name was Mason. He was a smiling, energetic man in his 40s. His energy was overflowing, and you could feel it from a distance. Well, Miranda, you've been recommended to me as an expert of the highest caliber. I'm glad you've agreed to take on my project, he announced cheerfully when I met you. You were also recommended to me as a great client. I'd be happy to help you. First, can you tell me who your home will be designed for? Miranda asked. Me and my ginger cat Orange will be living here, Mason replied. That's very nice. What about a wife? Kids? Don't think I'm just being nosy. I need the information in order to put together a proper design, the designer explained. I was not married at one time, but long ago divorced. No children yet, Mason clarified and smiled. Okay, I hear you. So we'll make a nest for you in Orange. Absolutely, smiled the client. I also have a country house, but to be honest, I am not very fond of nature. I'm closer to urbanism, and when my colleagues told me about the sale of an apartment in the center, I immediately caught fire. And here we are. Yes, it's great. Miranda smiled, infected by the positivity of a radiant client. I hope our cooperation will be fruitful, and I hope so, smiled Mason. On the same day, Miranda started the design of the apartment. This order was a pleasure for her, although it was not always so. A lot depended on the owners. If they had a good disposition, the work was a pleasure. If not, everything moved with a squeak. Mason certainly charmed Miranda. He seemed to glow from within. It's a walking power station for sure. You could charge batteries from him, agreed Kelly, with whom Miranda shared her observations. And it was this vitality that Miranda lacked at this stage of her life. The designer met with the client quite often. They coordinated all the details of furniture, doors, wallpaper, and almost 100% of the time Mason agreed with Miranda with a smile. He liked her ideas, her approach to work. Miranda herself, this became clear when at the end of one of the meetings he invited her to a restaurant. At the same time, for the girl, it was a complete surprise. Flirting with clients was taboo for her. Those who called her to go somewhere with them, she categorically refused. Until today, Mason had won Miranda over, and she decided to break the rules. Yes, of course, I agree. When it would be convenient for you, she clarified, a little confused with me. I could do it today. How do you look at it? Mason smiled broadly. It's a little unexpected. I'm not really dressed for a restaurant, Miranda said, embarrassed. You look beautiful tonight. You always do. But if you need time, I'm willing to wait, the man said. What would it take to melt a girl's heart? You're right. Let's go tonight, Miranda smiled. And that same evening they went to a small but very cozy restaurant on the outskirts of the city. I didn't even know about such a place. And here everything is very stylishly decorated. The designer did his best, praised the work of his colleague. I knew you would appreciate it. I'm sure you won't be disappointed with the food either. The local chef is a genius. I love this place. It's a real gem that not many people know. I only take special people here, Mason smiled, studying the menu. Miranda sat down and realized she was missing. Finally, her heart echoed and pounded in her stomach for 3 butterflies. He and Mason sat in the restaurant for a long time, joking, trying different dishes. One was better than the other. Miranda laughed all evening. The sense of lightness she had forgotten since her youth returned to her, so that she didn't even realize how she had ended up in Mason's apartment. The one she'd prepared herself, the place was almost ready. Finished. In particular, the couch in the bedroom had already been brought in. It had been a hot night, but Miranda felt very uncomfortable in the morning. When she woke up, she decided to quietly gather her things and leave. But Mason noticed it and stopped the girl. "Where are you going?" he asked in a sleepy voice. "I'm embarrassed about this. I must have had too much wine last night. I promise that no one will know what happened, and it won't affect our working relationship or the way I decorate this apartment," Miranda stammered. "I'd like it to affect the way you decorate my apartment," Mason countered. "What do you mean?" Miranda wondered. "I wanted you to make some adjustments to the design and add the furniture and appliances you wanted. I'd like a serious relationship with you, Miranda. If you think this was just a one-night stand, you're wrong. I've liked you for a long time, practically from the first time we met. Through coworkers, I found out if you were in a relationship. And when I found out you weren't, I took action. So I really want us to move in together when this apartment is ready. Oh, and we'll have an orange with us. But if I've charmed you, he'll do it even faster," smiled Mason. Miranda froze and could not answer anything. But then she came to her senses and, saying she had to think about it, left the apartment. Soon she told Kelly about everything. "What am I supposed to do now?" she asked her friend. "Agree to pick her up, Kelly. I didn't expect that from you." From the outside, this whole story looks extremely unreliable, doesn't it? Miranda was surprised. Yes, but that's if you don't know all the details. Like the fact that Mason is a super reliable man who doesn't throw words into the wind and isn't listed as a womanizer. Or the fact that you've basically known each other for quite some time. I mean, you've been taking care of his apartment for months. The relationship may have been a working one, but you've learned a few things about each other. So not complete strangers, Kelly explained. Miranda stayed up for 2 and then dialed Mason and firmly stated that she agreed to move in with him. "Oh, that's great. Yeah, bye, you need to check in a month. In the meantime, let's have a classic candy bouquet for the period." "By the way, roses or chrysanthemums?" Mason asked. "Gladioli," Miranda responded cheerfully and went to order a dressing table on the internet, which now she had to put for herself in the new apartment. The month flew by. As Mason had promised, it was filled with pleasant surprises like sailing trips and luxurious bouquets. Miranda, though she didn't fall in love with the man at first sight, felt more and more deeply for him every day. James and Kelly were happy for her. They thought Mason was the perfect match for the girl. He was definitely a decent man, not a rich man who would play around and throw it away, Charles asked excitedly. "Exactly. I, not even doubting the seriousness of his intentions, reassured the man Kelly. A month later, the lovers did move in together. The apartment, the project, which was engaged in Miranda, turned out to be cozy, modern. It had everything for a happy life. It took the girl some time to get used to living together with a man, because she had never lived with anyone before. However, Mason turned out to be such a comfortable and unassuming person that the process of adaptation was easy. Orange really turned out to be a wonderful, affectionate cat. I wonder what kind of kids we'll have. I'm a redhead. You're a searing brunette. What will we get in the genetic lottery?" asked Miranda Mason after 3 months of living together. "Children?" His mate was surprised. "Aren't you a little early to be talking about them? We're not even married yet. That's what I want to fix," Mason declared. He got down on one knee and pulled out a ring box. "Miranda, my love, will you marry me? It is very unexpected, but I agree." The girl exclaimed joyfully and collapsed into her lover's arms. Exciting but pleasant preparations for the wedding began. Miranda, with the support of Lisa and Kelly, chose a wedding dress. "I was in charge of decorating the hall, the restaurant, and the menu. I'm not alone in such an important moment. But it's a shame my mom isn't around. She would have been very supportive and probably happy that I'm marrying such a wonderful man." Sometimes in the evening, said Miranda Mason, understanding my good, consoled her future spouse. "But your mother is probably looking at you from heaven, sees everything, and is happy." "Yes, I think so too," replied Miranda. "I hope I can be a good mom to our children and surround them with love and care." "I don't even doubt it," the man said and kissed his wife tenderly. There was less and less time left till the cherished day. They decided to organize the holiday in their hometown Mason, which was located 150 kilometers from where they lived now. Good all organizational issues in modern technology could be done remotely. It was decided to name few guests, only the closest ones. The celebration was to turn out chamber, but very cozy. On the wedding day, the weather decided to pamper the newlyweds and guests with good weather and warmth. And this served as an additional reason for good mood. Miranda was glowing with happiness and was incredibly good in her wedding outfit. She decided not to stop on a laconic outfit, although she realized that just such images are at the peak of fashion. But her soul asked for a lush dress with lace and beads. On the morning before the ceremony, her father entered the room where the bride was going to get ready. Charles was clearly excited. "How beautiful you are, my daughter," he said, and could not hold back his tears. "Don't, Daddy, don't cry, or I'll start too and ruin your makeup," the girl smiled. "No, we don't want that. I will not allow anyone to spoil you, neither makeup, nor mood, nor fate," decisively stated the father and wiped his tears. Then continued, "Daughter, on this important day for our family, I want to give you one memorable thing. It was left to me by your mother. As if she sensed her imminent departure, she handed me her golden bracelet. She told me to give it to you on your wedding day, and you wore it. Here, he's your daddy. But why didn't you say anything before?" Unable to hold back her tears, Miranda said, and took the bracelet. "I was waiting for you to get married," Charles answered honestly. "Thank you, Daddy. Now I will feel that Mom is definitely around," said the girl and hugged her father. "That's it, we have to go, we're going out," wiping her tears. "And let's go." The father admonished his daughter before the start of the checkout, which was to be held on the roof terrace of the restaurant. "You are right," smiled the daughter, took her father's hand, and they went out to the groom and guests. The ceremony turned out to be very touching and cozy. Mason was radiant. Miranda was happy. The guests were having fun, congratulating the young ones and wishing them happiness. The wedding was visible to passers-by down the street, and Miranda saw them stop and look at the party with interest. "This is Stella's fir tree." In the middle of the celebration was scheduled to leave for a photo shoot at an old manor house located in the suburbs. The wedding cortege headed to the right place, but barely having driven away from the restaurant, encountered a surprise. Practically under the wheels of the first car, in which the newlyweds themselves were traveling, a woman, a gypsy woman by the look of it, rushed out. She stopped the procession, which frightened all its participants. "Stay here, I'll take care of everything," said Mason Miranda, and got out of the car. The gypsy woman cried, asked to communicate with the bride, and wailed, "Daughter, what is going on here?" "A woman, are you out of your mind to throw yourself in front of a car? Why do you need a bride?" Mason was indignant. "I'm her mother, son," shouted the woman. "What mother? What are you talking about? Her mother died a long time ago." Mason marveled. At that moment, Miranda got out of the car and examined the woman. They looked exactly alike. There was no doubt about their kinship. In addition, the gypsy woman wore the same gold bracelet as Miranda. "My dear daughter." She ran up to the bride in an attempt to hug her, but Mason blocked her way. "Until you explain what this means, I'm not letting my wife see you," Mason declared sternly. "I saw another wedding on the roof of the restaurant. I thought I'd stop and take a look. It's not very high up there, it's a low building. And I was just amazed at what I saw. I noticed Charles first. He and I had an affair a long time ago. And then I saw him, and it didn't take much to realize I wasn't lying. Look at us, son, we look just alike. Besides, she's wearing my bracelet. I left it to Charles and gave it to my daughter for her wedding. Look, I still have one, just like it," the woman said, pointing to her wrist with the jewelry on it. At that moment, Charles, who was riding in the car behind her, approached her daughter and son-in-law. "What's going on here?" he asked and shouted, noticing the gypsy woman. "You? How did you get here?" But she walked away. "Don't, Dad, she's telling the truth. It's really my mom," crying and trying to approach the woman, Miranda said. "Mason, put her in the car and drive out of here." "I'll deal with this charlatan, and we'll catch up with you," Charles commanded. The son-in-law followed his orders, put his wife in the car, and drove away. The photo shoot was out of the question. Miranda was not in the mood, she had other things on her mind. Where was her mother? Why had she been lied to that she had died in childbirth? And for what reason had the woman gone into hiding for so long without trying to find her? When it was finally clear that the celebration would not continue, the guests were asked to leave. The girl was alone with her new husband. "When Daddy comes back, I need to talk to him," she told her lover. "He's staying at a hotel tonight. You need to get some sleep. Tomorrow you will see and discuss everything. The main thing is that we're a family now. You know what? I will never leave you and I will support you in everything," said Mason. These words calmed the girl, drinking valerian from powerlessness on emotions and tension. She fell soundly asleep and slept until the morning. Waking up, she didn't bother to wake Mason, going to the hotel where her father and Lisa were staying. In the lobby, she called her dad and asked him to come out. He soon appeared in the hallway. "Come on, let's go for a walk." "It seems that we have something to discuss," the girl suggested. "Come on," agreed the father, and they went for a walk in the neighboring park. "Dad, I grew up in deceit for many years, but now I want to hear only the truth from you, no matter how terrible it may be," Miranda declared resolutely. "You are a woman, indeed my real mother." "Yes," replied the man quietly. "Then I am waiting for all the details of the mysterious story of my origins," said Miranda and gave the floor to my father. "In my youth, I was very shy and timid. Young men and girls didn't work out for me. I didn't know how to approach them. I was afraid to ask them out, even though my friends were having affairs left and right. I thought I would die a bachelor. But one day I accidentally met a young gypsy on the street. She offered to read my fortune, but I could not even hear her words, as she was incredibly beautiful. I froze, looking at her, and she laughed back. "Did you like it?" she asked me. I nodded in response. "And you to me," she declared, and the ground went out from under my feet. She ended up giving me a happy life and secretly handed me a note at the end. At home, with trembling fingers, I opened it. It said place and time of meeting and her name. Cindy, she made a date with me. Of course, I went to see it. She was stunning, beautiful. We began an affair. Cindy became my first love. Yet no one knew about our relationship. That's something you wouldn't have realized about me or my family. We had to hide and conceal ourselves. We planned to run away together. When I graduated from technical school, it wouldn't be long now. But then her brothers figured us out. They beat Cindy up and locked her up at home, and they threatened to kill me if I ever came near Cindy. But her little sister took our story to heart and agreed to be our last. She brought me notes from her lover. I learned from one of them that Cindy was pregnant, which the family considered a disgrace. They decided they would give the half-breed child into slavery rather than keep it. Cindy didn't want that fate for our daughter and asked me to take her after she was born. I agreed, even though I realized the burden of being a single father would fall on me. 7 months later, you were born. The stars were on our side. Her sister managed to convince the family that the baby was stillborn and was buried immediately after delivery. In fact, Cindy's sister handed the baby girl to me along with a gold bracelet that the mother had asked her daughter to wear to her wedding. That's how our story began, so you wouldn't grow up in an atmosphere of gossip. I moved to another town. Your parents didn't know about you then? I soon told them I was married. I had a daughter, but my wife died in childbirth. So your grandparents believed the same version as you. I made up the name of your fictitious mom, Oleg, and everything else too, Charles told me. But if it's as you say, why were you so angry with Cindy yesterday? When you saw her and decided to chase her away. It wasn't her fault she was like that, was it? Miranda asked, wiping away her tears. The fact is that about 8 years later I found traces of your mother and decided to write to her. I thought we still had a chance to be together. I was no longer the inexperienced boy, but the nanny, the girl. Over the years, we had to learn to stand up for ourselves. I wrote to Cindy, suggested we get together and start over. I knew she was drawn to life in the Tabor, had always dreamed of studying and leading a very different lifestyle, and now I could provide that for her. But Cindy suddenly told me that she had left the past in the past. She doesn't want to come back to me. And let my daughter be raised by me without her participation, the father explained. That's very sad, Miranda replied. But why did she rush into the wedding cortege yesterday when she saw me? I don't know, Charles said. Perhaps she recognized her mistake and changed her mind. But it was too late. There's no forgiveness for that. Miranda was silent for a moment, then said with a bitter smile, "But at least now I could see where my love of bright colors came from. And my unwillingness to sit still was also explained. Blood is not water. If I am half gypsy, then my professor was right when he called me Carmen." The father hugged his daughter and whispered to her, "Everything will be all right. Forget about what happened yesterday and focus on your marriage." Miranda nodded, although in truth she already knew that forgetting about it would not be possible. Moreover, she was determined to find her real mother and hear her side of the story. At the same time, she realized that her father was against it. Therefore, she decided not to dedicate him to her plans. After the wedding, Miranda tried to touch on this topic in communication with Mason, but he also made it clear that he did not want his wife to continue the search for her mother. "Honey, I understand how you feel. But believe me, the past is best left in the past. There's too much water under the bridge, too many dark spots in this story. I'm sure your mom's a good person, but you two are too different." If only because they grew up in different environments, in different circles, her husband told her. Miranda nodded, but didn't give up her plan. She realized that she could not do without accomplices. There were few candidates for their role, only James and Kelly. The girl asked her companion not to tell Lisa anything so that she would not tell her father. "I'm a grave," James promised. Kelly also agreed to be on the case. "I was lucky. I grew up in a complete family and I can't imagine what it was like for you without your mom. I know your dad and Aunt Lisa surrounded you with love, but a mother's love is different. My husband and I will definitely help you to restore justice and sort everything out," the girl said. "First, we had to make a plan of action." The main catch was that after the wedding with Miranda returned from the man's hometown, and the mother remained there, the young wife had to come up with a convincing reason to go back there and start looking for her. For plausibility's sake, she decided to wait a bit, and for a month she portrayed a model wife settling their family nest. Mason was pleased. The father, too, believed that his daughter had forgotten about the Cindy story and had calmed down. However, Miranda did not think to forget about it. A month after the wedding, she told her loved ones that she was offered to take on a big project in another city. A large hotel complex was to be built, and the customer wanted to work only with Miranda, as he had heard a lot of good things about her. It would be inconvenient to travel back and forth. It made more sense to just move there for a while. She lied to her husband. "Orange and I will miss you so much, but we won't fly you out," Mason replied. "Great, thanks. I'll try to finish everything as soon as possible and come back." Miranda rejoiced and threw herself on her husband's neck. In the meantime, she took a leave of absence at work and went to the right city. James stayed at home, but Kelly volunteered to go with Miranda. "We sent our eldest son on vacation to his grandmother in the country anyway. As for the pregnancy, I'm still in the early stages of pregnancy, so there's nothing stopping me from taking the plunge," she explained to her friend and husband. Those agreed, although James voiced certain concerns, promising that "you will be very careful and will not rush into things," he asked his spouse before leaving. "But you know me, a more cautious person is hard to find?" Kelly replied with a smile. Miranda smiled as she looked at the couple and was glad to have a caring Mason. And at that moment she finally realized that Mark was finally and irrevocably a thing of the past, but she had enough to worry about. Miranda and Kelly rented an apartment in a neighboring town. It was centrally located and allowed them to get around the city with ease. "Well, we should make up some kind of cover story," Kelly said. "Here's a suggestion," Miranda asked. "Yes, we could introduce ourselves as journalists who are preparing a big report about modern gypsies who want to tell how their life is organized, how they live, what they dream about." "How do you like this idea?" Kelly asked. "Great, let's do it," approved Miranda. The next day the friends bought a professional camera. It was necessary to maintain the legend. It remained to be seen where to look for gypsies in general. "Usually you don't have to look for them, they find you," Kelly joked. But in every joke, as it is known, there is only a part of a joke. The girls figured out where to meet representatives of this nomadic nation and agreed that the ideal place is a hospital. Gypsies often wander there to offer fortune-telling to patients and their relatives, who long to hear the cherished words that all will be well and are not stingy on payment. The friends headed toward the local hospital and began wandering through the traffic near it. Kelly's assumption was justified. Soon a colorful elderly gypsy woman caught up with them. "Send a pen, sweetheart," she said to the girl. "Come on." Suddenly the girl cheerfully joined the game. "The princess is waiting for you and loves you with all her heart. You have already met your love, but your girl is restlessly looking for something, but she doesn't know where to look." The gypsy began her prediction surprisingly well. "Quite right," Kelly confirmed. "My soul is looking for something. And you know who can help me find it? You. I'm a journalist and I'm doing a big story on modern gypsies. I want to dispel the myths surrounding your people and show that you're not to be feared. And this is my colleague, she's a photographer. We work together. Can you help us? See your circle?" When she heard those words, the gypsy woman immediately pulled away. "Dibs on you. We don't want any journalists." "You're looking for the wrong person, my daughter," the woman said and started to walk away. But Kelly stopped her. "Wait a minute. Consult with your loved ones, get their opinion. We really don't want to hurt you. And if you think of anything, give me a call. Here's my number." The girl handed the gypsy a piece of paper with numbers on it. The woman reluctantly took the piece of paper and immediately walked away. Miranda patted her friend on the shoulder. I stood there like a statue. "I'm sorry." "Come on, I am." Kelly smiled happily. "You're on maternity leave, and this is something interesting. Now let's hope I've managed to get this gypsy girl to like me." The waiting period began. Kelly didn't get any calls from unknown numbers for a couple days. The friends were upset and had already decided to look for other options. But on the third day, the girl finally got a call back. "Come tomorrow at 12 at the address Lugovaya, 13. "The house with the red gate," said a woman's voice, and the stranger hung up. So we waited. "Really, I don't know whether to be happy or sad now," Kelly said, opening the maps on her phone. "Meadowlands is on the outskirts of town, and tomorrow is Friday the 13th, Miranda added. "Well, now that we've started this, we should finish it. I'll text James the address where we're going," Kelly said just in case. The night passed restlessly. Both girls studied, not knowing what to expect from tomorrow's meeting. As morning came, however, Miranda's determination returned. "Kelly, we'll get through this. Thank you for not leaving me at such an important time. Everything will be fine, I'm sure of it. Besides, we're not unarmed. Mason's a gun range enthusiast. I snuck his gun before the trip," the girl said. "If he notices it's missing," Kelly wondered. "He won't. Mason has a very busy schedule. He has a lot of hobbies, and he doesn't have a visit to Tyre this month," Miranda replied. The presence of the gun gave the friends confidence, and they headed outside. Kelly was right. It turned out to be the very outskirts of town. The farther they drove, the cozier it got. The girls found themselves in a private sector with large mansions and high fences, and quickly realized that gypsies lived there. "But that's what we wanted," she tried to cheer up her friend Kelly. "Where did you get that courage from?" asked Miranda. "It must be the hormones." "I'm pregnant," Kelly joked. "Some people eat watermelons and sausage, and some go to gypsy villages." The cab driver drove them to house number 13 and immediately went back. Miranda's legs were under the porridge. "You didn't forget your camera, did you?" Kelly asked. "No, I have it with me," said Miranda and showed the device. "Well, that's good. The investigative journalism begins," Kelly said. I pressed the bell by the gate. A boy of about 10 opened the door and invited my friend inside. In the courtyard, a huge babai was sitting on a chain in a big box. Seeing the guests, he barked menacingly. The girls shuddered. "Do not worry," said the boy. "He is our kind. Good people do not touch." "You are good people," of course, Kelly replied, and pulled some sweets out of her bag. "Here's a chocolate bar for you. Do you like them?" "I do." The boy was happy and took the candy bar for himself. Meanwhile, the guests had already entered the house. There the gypsy baron was waiting for them. The rich decoration of the house, gold stucco, colorful curtains, leather sofas, and mahogany furniture testified to the man's status. On the wall was a large portrait of the owner himself, a man in his 50s. "And why did you come here?" the man asked unhappily. He sits in a golden armchair with carvings, more like a throne. We are journalists, and we are writing a text about your people. Thank you for accepting us, Kelly defended cheerfully. I can see that you are not journalists. Baron especially said that, pointing at Miranda. She's one of our own. You can see it in her face. Yes, you're absolutely right. My colleague has Gypsy roots. That's why she's so interested in this subject. And I decided to help her with her fact-finding, Kelly continued persuasively. And that your friend swallowed her tongue and cannot answer herself. Baron was angry. Kelly nudged Miranda with her elbow. She could. The colleague said it right. I'm half Gypsy, so this topic is close to me, she said quietly. I see that you're not just a Gypsy, but a relative of mine, the man declared. Both girls' eyes widened in amazement. You look just like Cindy. My sister. I can even guess who your father is. It turns out that over 20 years ago, she lied to me about the baby dying in childbirth. She secretly saved you herself, the Baron reasoned aloud. The girls did not know what to say. Meanwhile, the man continued, I suspect you have come here in search of Cindy, but I have nothing to tell you. She lives with me, and she's not going anywhere. Forget about her. She's a girl and she's making a life for herself. You may have Gypsy blood in you, but you're not a Gypsy. Now get out of here safely. Since you're my niece, even though you're a half-breed, I won't hurt you, and I won't hurt your friend. But this is the first and last time I'll show you such kindness. You'll get your nose in our face. We got dogs on you and I won't raise an eyebrow. Now, my son, escort the guests back to where they came from. The boy, who had been in the hallway the whole time, instantly jumped up to his father, bowed to him, and led the women to the exit. On the way back, Kelly did not hesitate. Friend, listen. I have a lot more chocolates right here with me. Why don't I give you all of them right now, and you give one note to your aunt for me? Okay. Just don't say anything to Daddy, okay? Kelly whispered quietly to the boy on the way to the gate. You didn't say anything, but you could see he was struggling with his choice. Okay, all right. Give me your paper and the chocolates, the boy said as they walked out of the gate. And he made sure his father wasn't looking at them anymore. Kelly frantically dumped the chocolates out of the bag into the bar's hands and hastily wrote a message on a sheet of notepaper. She handed it to the child. Thank you, friend, you're doing a great job. Kelly encouraged the boy. He said nothing, hid the chocolates under his shirt and ran into the house. On the way back in the cab, Miranda once again thanked her friend for her ingenuity and asked her what she had written in the note that Cindy was looking for her daughter and left the address of the hotel where we were staying, Kelly explained. Got it, thanks. And one more question, why do you need so many chocolates? Miranda asked. It's embarrassing. But I have a sweet tooth and I always carry candy with me. Plus I have a son. The other one's chocolate. But today, when we went to this suspicious place and I didn't know how it would end, I decided to stock up on some food just in case. In case we'd be locked up in some dungeon on the terrace of the house came only chocolates. So it's easy, Kelly smiled. Miranda laughed. The girl's stress was coming out. Now the friends could only wait and hope that Barra would really give her aunt a note and that she would want to see her daughter. Let's wait a couple days. If she doesn't show up by Monday, let's close this thing and go home. My conscience will be clear. I did what I could to find my mother, suggested Miranda Kelly, and she agreed. The weekend passed in anticipation. But the friends decided not to waste time and to walk around the city a little to distract themselves. James regularly called Kelly and Mason called Miranda. The men were worried about their wives, but they reassured them as best they could. Mason knew nothing of Miranda's plan, but he knew his wife's adventurous nature, so he worried. Honey, I'm coming home as early as Monday. It turned out to be a project earlier than planned. Miranda hastened to reassure her husband. I'm very happy that everything went well. Mason wondered. Time will tell. Philosophically replied Miranda. Time went by, the weekend flew by, but Cindy never came to the hotel. The receptionist had not informed her friends that they had visitors during their absence. Miranda was a little upset, but she was slowly beginning to get used to the idea that there would be no contact with her mother, so she didn't feel so bad. However, on Monday, when her friends were checking out of the hotel, they unexpectedly ran into Cindy in the hotel lobby. She looked terrified. Daughter, I'm here. she said when she saw Miranda and ran up to her. Miranda had tears in her eyes and hugged her mother. "Can we rent a room for another 24 hours? In the meantime, Kelly asked the hotel staff. They agreed, and the women went up to the room prepared for them. "Daddy must have told you our story, right?" Cindy asked. "Yes, he did," Miranda replied. "And he must have told you that he contacted me when you went to school. But I didn't want to see you?" asked the gypsy girl, "right?" "And that's what he mentioned too," confirmed the girl sweetly. "Don't think I didn't want to see you." "Yes, I did. Every day I thought about you, cried a lot. My heart bleeds. But you could see for yourself on Friday what harsh manners our family holds women in. After his birth, to wash away the shame of our family, my brother forcibly married me off to a rich old man. Oh, how bitter. I cried, but I couldn't do anything. We had a lavish wedding, and soon I gave birth to a son crying. Unfortunately, the boy was born sick. He had a heart defect. The doctors said he was a goner. But I did everything I could to keep him alive as long as possible. Soon my hated husband died. He hated me and my son. We were left alone with our misfortune. My brother supported us and helped us financially, but no one supported us morally. After I got involved with your father, he despised me. It was very difficult for me, but my love of crying saved me. He was a very affectionate boy. When your father came out to me, my brother found out. He threatened me that if I tried to run away to you, he'd keep Junior and deny him medical care. And that meant certain death for my son. That left me with the choice of son or daughter. I knew Charles was raising you in care, and here I am crying. No one wanted him but me. Without me, he would have died. So I lied to your father that I didn't need you. I stayed with my son, thanks to my care and proper treatment. The boy lived to be 17 and died peacefully in his sleep. He will always be my angel. I have no other children. Since then I have been leaning idle and no longer expect any joy from fate, Cindy told with tears in her eyes. Listening to her mother, Miranda also cried. But Daddy said that when you were young, you always dreamed of a different life. You wanted to study, to work, to build a family, to be a modern woman. Was that true? The girl asked. Is it true? But life is very complicated. I was weaker than the circumstances. I still finished school, though, and then I managed to excel in Switzerland. My brother and my husband were not happy about it, Cindy explained. Let me take you back to my place, Miranda said. What are you doing, sweetheart? I can't run away. My brother won't forgive me. It was important for me to tell you the truth. I have done that, and now I can return to my sorrowful existence, replied Cindy. But why is there nothing holding you back now? The crying is gone. The husband is dead. Only the brother is left. But you are in. You don't love, said Miranda. Yes, but I'm afraid to anger him, said Cindy. And then, if you take me back to your place, he'll be watching us, and there'll be revenge. We'll arrange everything very intelligently. Don't worry. My husband has a country house that no one knows about. We don't live there. The place is empty. I put you there at least temporarily, and she pays her brother tribute for you. Isn't that what you do? I've been saving money for a car for a long time, and I'm ready to spend it so that you can be with me and be happy, Miranda voiced her plan. Daughter, honey, I don't deserve your kindness. Cindy cried. We'll do this later. We don't have time now. If you agree, we have to run away immediately, without things, without everything. You'll just go away with us and start a new life. Let's go. Resolutely asked Miranda. Let's go, Cindy answered decisively and wiped away her tears. The women went down to the lobby and paid the receptionist to keep quiet about the fact that Cindy was in this hotel, and then she left with 2 guests, driving out of town. All the women exhaled with relief. Oh my gosh. It's like being in a thriller, said Kelly, who was driving. It's like a movie. Cindy smiled. The girls drove the gypsy to Mason's country house because Miranda had the keys with her. The woman looked and promised she would behave very carefully. I have no doubt about that, Mother Miranda said and hugged the woman. Tomorrow I'll bring you some modern clothes. While you were settling in, your friends went back to town. Kelly marveled at Miranda's courage and nobility. Are you really ready to give away the money you've been saving for the car for so long? She asked. I can still earn money for a car, but I could lose my mom. So there can be no doubt. Miranda replied. Are you sure it will work and the Baron will accept the exchange? My friend asked. I am sure. You've seen his house of luxury and wealth. He is obsessed with money and will only be happy to get rid of the sister who once entrusted him with it. There was never a warm relationship between them, Miranda said. The friends hugged each other and went home. Miranda decided to tell Mason the truth right away. I'm with you so much for the idea. The man grabbed his head. Why didn't you tell me about your plans? I would have helped you. You risked your life and Kelly's. Cute. But it ended well, didn't it? Remember, our relationship is built on trust. I evaluate my actions and knowing what I'm doing. I didn't mean to scare you. I love you too much. Now I have one question for you. Do you mind if Mom stays at your house for a while? Then I'll find her an apartment? She's not unprofessional. She can sew. I'll get her a job in an atelier and she'll have a little money. But it takes time for her to adjust to her new life, Miranda said. Of course, honey, I don't mind. Let her live as long as she needs to. All I care about is that you're happy, Mason replied, and hugged his wife. However, this was not the last difficult conversation for Miranda. She had to communicate with her father. His reaction she feared the most. After listening to his daughter, Charles paused. He didn't know what to say to that. You must be really mad at me, huh? Right, Dad? Miranda asked. Of course I am, daughter. Although I understand you, replied the father. Well, it was your right, your will. The important thing is that everything ended well. You and Kelly came back alive and well. And as for Cindy, you know I don't want to get back together with her. If she told you the truth about her sick son, I'm willing to forgive her. But I still won't talk to her. I have a different life, a family, Lisa. That story's long gone. Thank you, Cindy, for giving me such a beautiful daughter. But that's the end of our relationship. But I can't stop you from talking to her. So you do as you see fit, as your father wisely said. Thank you, Daddy, you're the best. Threw herself on Charles Miranda's neck. As for the ransom, Mason himself offered to give the Baron the necessary sum, but his wife flatly refused. This is my mother, and it is fundamentally important for me to solve this problem myself, said Miranda. In the end, she contacted her mother's brother through intermediaries and handed over a large sum of money in exchange for her mother's freedom. He agreed and said that he was cutting Cindy out of the family's life once and for all. Meanwhile, the woman herself gradually adapted to her new life. She mastered new technologies, learned to wear modern clothes, changed her hairstyle and began to smile more. Soon she was going to work in an attire. Daughter, you're my happiness. I don't deserve all this, she told Miranda. Mom, you deserve the best. Don't even doubt it, she replied on one of her visits to her mother. They sat for a while more and Miranda and Mason, who was supposed to pick her up, called. Come out, I've already pulled up, he said to his wife. Miranda went outside but did not see her spouse's familiar SUV. Next to the house stood only a small stylish red car that the girl dreamed of. At first she thought it was a neighbor's car, but then she looked closer and noticed that Mason was sitting behind the wheel. Miranda ran up to the foreign car and asked, "Hi, what's going on here? What kind of car is this?" "It's your car, honey," Mason said cheerfully. "So now I'm in the passenger seat. And you, getting behind the wheel?" The husband moved into the neighboring seat, and Miranda jumped into the driver's seat. "You're not kidding?" She was surprised. "Of course not. You've dreamed of a car like this, saved up for it, and earned it," Mason said with a smile. "But it costs a lot," Miranda persisted. "No problem, we'll earn the money. The main thing is to make our loved ones happy," said the husband and kissed his wife. "And now, we have a lot of interesting things ahead of us. You'll never be bored." Miranda laughed. And the couple drove their new car to their new life,